Hey, yo, what's up to everybody out there? Welcome to another edition of the Roundtable Talk. I am your host, C Money, and in this episode, we are doing history in South Florida, and we are here coming up to Northwest 54th Street and Northwest 12th Avenue. Now, I do want to apologize in advance because I am a week late, and we're going to talk about that later on in the video, the reason why I am a week late. And if you know, you know. Now we're coming up here to Northwest 54th Street and 12th Avenue in the Liberty City area of Miami, and we are taking a look in the area here where there's a lot of history behind this. You know, 12th Avenue, which is also named after John H. Peavy Jr., and Northwest 54th Street, which is also named after Jefferson Reed Sr. Boulevard. And this is a prominent location. We are here on the corner. Now, on this side, this is the M Mini Mart, which is a dollar discount. Now, before this was a M Mini Mart, about a year ago, this was a actual banquet hall that housed, a banquet hall. And about a couple of years ago, you had a VR, virtual reality gaming place here that was here at this location. And I'm gonna go across the street so you can get a better view of it. And of course, I don't remember what it was beforehand or what it used to be before the VR gaming, because this building was kind of vacant for a while, and it was here. Now you have the mini mart, you have a defense training place, and you have a preschool that sits over there. Now this building here that sits here, this is a Marathon that's right there. This building right here, this is a Family Dollar. This Family Dollar's been here for a little while, but before this Family Dollar was here, this was actually the 54th Street Flea Market, which is the second location for the 54th Street Flea Market. That actually was the prominent location that they moved to when they actually, and then that was there in the early 2000s, and then it closed and got turned into a Family Dollar. Now I've been inside that flea market when it was there, and I've been inside it to where it wasn't as big, but it was interesting. So now coming across the street here, we're coming to the Shoppers of Liberty City. Now, if any of you know, you know. Now, here at the Shoppers of Liberty City, there have been several changes to this place, and one big recent change to this place. Right here, as you can see, this is a newly opened Domino's Pizza that opened up about 2 or 3 months ago. This Domino's Pizza used to be a Simon Sportswear, and for those who don't know, Simon Sportswear was something similar to Foot Locker. It was like a local chained sports store where you can buy shoes and things like that, and probably like sports gear. You can buy shirts and maybe some shorts, but I know it's predominantly shoes, and a lot of people used to shop there. They still have several locations, but this Liberty City location closed. Right here is Hair and Nails. Right here you got Metro by T-Mobile. You have MPI Prep Academy Learning Center, and another local chain, DTLR, or Your Fashion, Your Lifestyle, which is kind of another Simon Sportswear. That's probably the reason why Simon Sportswear closed, because DTLR came, and they have several locations as well. So in this area, if any of you from Miami know what 2 favorite stores from back in the day was here, can you guess it? If not, it was Payless Shoe Store and Radio Shack. They closed these stores in the mid-2000s. Now, I remember I used to get some of my work shoes. I used to get my work shoes from Payless Shoe Store, and I remember this Radio Shack because when I moved in the area, I remember I used to go get some of my electronics, where I used to either buy my batteries. I bought one of my mom's, TV antennas from this Radio Shack, and I used to also come in and pay my cell phone bill because I used to be a customer of Virgin Mobile, and you can go inside the stores before they had smartphones or before they had apps where you can pay your bills. I used to come into the store and pay my cell phone bill, and you can also get cell phones here as well. So this was where they had the Payless shoe store and the Radio Shack that was here. I believe Radio Shack closed after Payless. I'm not for sure which one closed first. That was, and to let you know, remember earlier in the show I said I'm late to the game and I'm sorry. This is what I'm talking about. A week ago to this day, this Winn-Dixie closed its doors on August 2nd. And give you a little bit of history of this area. This was called the Shoppers of Liberty City. Back in the 80s and in the 90s, early 90s, this shopping center was not a shopping center. This was home to Zayre's. If anybody know what Zaire is, Zaire was something equivalent to Kmart. Back then, we had several competing stores. We had Kmart, we had Woolworth, we had Zayre's, we also had Ames. And those was like the competing stores that shaped up that we went to back in the day, and there was a lot of stuff that we went in there. The reason why a lot of these stores closed, like Zayre's and Ames and now Kmart, is because a lot of fast upcoming stores started branching and started building. Walmart became more of a grocery store, and the same as Target, and now you have a lot of these Amazon and a lot of these online stores. Now after Zayre's closed, because Zayre's closed probably in the 90s if I'm not mistaken, I don't remember when they closed. This was the original 54th Street flea market, where I told you earlier that they moved. They was over there where the now Family Dollar is. This is the 54th Street flea market. So this used to be the 54th Street flea market. So when the 54th Street flea market, they closed, I believe in the early 2000s, and this became a Winn-Dixie. I can't remember when this Winn-Dixie actually opened up. If anybody have any information, you can easily just tell me and put a comment on it. As you can see, there's a lot of people that's coming up here probably still looking to see if they can go in the Winn-Dixie, not knowing that it closed, because there's been a lot of... Now, this Winn-Dixie closed because, as you know, and I mentioned this in a few of my videos, they are changing. A lot of the Winn-Dixies are being converted into Aldis. Aldis brought out Winn-Dixie, and a lot of the Winn-Dixies that are here in South Florida are being converted into Aldis. There's several ones. There's one near Jackson Memorial Hospital in the Health District. There's one, off of 7th. There's several Winn-Dixies that are being converted into Aldis. Now, here is a Liberty City Wash House. Now, what is say Liberty City Wash House? That used to be a Worth It. Now, if you don't know what Worth It is I don't know if it's a national chain, but I know it was a local chain of children's clothing store, where if you needed your child's uniform for school, you went right there to Worth It and you bought it. I remember as a kid, my mom used to always buy certain stuff for me, like socks and stuff like that, and you go to Worth It. Now, back in the day, this was the shopping center to go through. When you wanted to buy some kids' clothing, you went to Worth It right here. If you needed some groceries, you went to Winn-Dixie. And if you needed to buy some batteries, or you needed some nice shoes for yourself, some church shoes, or you wanted to buy your kids' school shoes and stuff, you went right over here to Payless and you went to Radio Shack. Now, this 99-cent store and beauty exchange supply store, they've been here for quite some time too. Now, I'm not going to say how long they've been there, and I'm not going to say that if they've been here since this opened up. See, the Shoppers of Liberty City, you see Winn-Dixie sign is still there, but under it, they blacked out something. Now, this Winn-Dixie did have a pharmacy, and I believe the pharmacy probably closed way before the actual store closed. Now, this Wendy's have been here for a while too, and this Wendy's, they have been here for a while, and so has this church. Now, right here on the corner right here, this is 11th Avenue and 54th Street, there was a gas station that was here. Now I remember that, and after a while the gas station stopped selling gas, and it just popped, and it just used to be where you can go in and buy, like, it was like basically a convenience store. This Church's Chicken has been here for a while, and they have closed and reopened, before, but this Church's Chicken has been here for a while. So you can see that this area has been redeveloped and everything. So I know I'm late to the party with the Winn-Dixie, and I've seen several, online social media posts about people talking about it, and I've seen people going inside of some of the Winn-Dixies. They went on the inside and was like, even my mom told me, go to Winn-Dixie because they're having a sale and stuff like that, but I didn't really have time to go inside the Winn-Dixie. So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna go, and when I have a chance, I'm gonna do a video outside of it. Like I said before, this was the premier shopping place. You got your kids' clothes from the Worth It. You went inside the 99-cent store for anything you need, because that's the dollar store. You went shopping at Winn-Dixie for your groceries. If you needed some nice little shoes that's inexpensive, you came over to pay less. If you needed batteries for your remote control, I even bought one of my mom's TVs from this Radio Shack. When we first moved into the area, I bought a TV for her for Radio Shack, and so forth and so forth. I don't remember what used to be there where the Simon Sportswear was. I don't remember what was there, but I know that was one of the places there. And this area right here, now if you remember this area, I would want you to comment at the bottom of this page. As you can see on the corner there is a Happy Bug. Now I've been in there before, and I don't remember what it used to be back in the day, but I know because a lot of these buildings here, they was predominantly good places back in the day where you can go in and you can get things like this church. That's always been a church. I know it's probably been something. It was probably something in the 80s and 90s, but yes, this is a church and things like that. So this place, as you can see, Winn-Dixie, Wash House, 99-cent store, Wendy's, Metro by T-Mobile, Beauty Exchange, Beauty Supply, A-Red, Divaco Project. That's probably the owners of the place. And a lot of this has been, it's gone. So now you have to think what is being. I believe this Winn-Dixie is to become a Aldi's at this Winn-Dixie. So I'm believing, because a lot of the Winn-Dixies here, they're being transformed into Aldi's. So I wouldn't, I will be understanding, that if it do, I'm like, I really don't care for it, because if you've ever been into Aldi's is a little bit smaller than Winn-Dixie, and to that notion, it makes it to wonder, why are they changing it? Because if you've ever been inside Winn-Dixie and you've been inside Aldi's, you know that Winn-Dixie has a bakery, a deli, a meat, a meat department, and all of that. You can go and get a birthday cake out of Winn-Dixie. You can go get a plate of food out of Winn-Dixie. You can also go and get some pastries. You can go get your ham and cheese out of Winn-Dixie. You can go get a lot of that. But as of right now, Aldi's, if you go inside Aldi's, and I've been inside Aldi's, they are like similar to Save-A-Lot. If you've ever been in the Save-A-Lot, you know that Save-A-Lot is like a low budget. Save-A-Lot is like a low budget supermarket, and they doesn't have any Save-A-Lots here in South Florida. So if you ever been inside Save-A-Lot, that's the same thing as Aldi's. And I've been inside Aldi's. Aldi's is a great place, but they don't have a bakery, they don't have a deli department, they don't have a meat department, so you go in there, you gotta buy your bags. If you don't buy your bags, you gotta excuse me, I almost tripped over. If you don't buy your bags, you gotta carry your food out. You gotta put a quarter into the shopping carts to get, so when you return the shopping cart, you get your quarter back. They try to save on prices by doing other stuff. If you have one of those blue bags from Aldi's, you can bring it into the store and reuse them over and over. You can purchase one, things like that. So this is, I believe, going to become an Aldi's. As you can see, there's people coming in and out of the Winn-Dixie, which is probably the construction people or people who are going to mean. Now, I'm not saying when this is going to be an Aldi's or if this is going to be an Aldi's. I know several of the other Winn-Dixies are turning into Aldi's. There's one off of 7th Avenue and 111th Street. If you ride past it, the front sign on the building says Winn-Dixie, but if you look at the shopping plaza sign that shows all the stores, it says Aldi's on it. So that you know that that's going to be turning into Aldi's. And this was a predominantly, like I said, back in the day, you went and got your kids' clothes from here from Worth It. You went inside the 99-cent store for your little dollar store knickknacks. You went to Winn-Dixie to go grocery shopping, and then you ended up going to Payless to buy you some shoes, to buy your kids shoes. You went to Radio Shack for your electronics. If you was hungry, you ended up either going to this Wendy's or you end up going to this Church's Chicken that's right here. And then there was it. You had several options. Now it's different now because everything's changing. All the Winn-Dixies are being... Now, there are still a few Winn-Dixies that are still open. There's one... I know there's one off of Sunny Isles Beach off the Intercoastal Waterways, 163rd going towards the beach. There's one still there. And then there's one in Aventura, if I'm not mistaken. That is still a Winn-Dixie. But I've seen several posts of a lot of these. And it's not just the Winn-Dixies, because Winn-Dixie was like the staple of a lot of people in our community. Because because remember, I did a video back, I did a video a while back on how, a lot of businesses won't come to the urban areas like Publix and CVS, and a lot of the businesses, they won't come to the urban areas. So with that in mind, this was one of the places that people could go to shop at. Even though Winn-Dixie prices was a little bit higher than most places, their prices were slightly higher than Walmart, but it was definitely cheaper than Publix. So it kind of gave you an understanding of, our childhood. And a lot of people grew up at Winn-Dixie. They mom and dad, your mom, your parents would say, hey, go to Winn-Dixie, get a carton of milk. Here's $5. Go to Winn-Dixie, get a carton of milk, or go, use this card and swipe it and things. So it came down to the point where, it was a staple of our community. So now they're closing a lot of these locations to where you're like, oh my God, I'm going to miss this place. And it gets to the point where you have to understand that this is gentrification. And I know a lot of you are talking about, gentrification and stuff like that. Yes, some of this is gentrification. These stores closing here, like Payless and Radio Shack and all that, it's because a lot of businesses went out of business. Winn-Dixie did not go out of business, even though they did file for bankruptcy at one point, because, Winn-Dixie was losing business. Like, I don't know the reason why Worth It went out of business, but we all know the reason why Radio Shack and the reason why Payless went out of business. Because of course, Radio Shack and Payless was one of the was Radio Shack closed because times change. A lot of stuff has changed, and a lot of things have changed. People started buying stuff online. People started going to, you get all your stuff from Walmart. You can go online to Walmart. You can go online. I don't know why this vehicle is following me. I think that's security for the parking lot. So they've been driving around the parking lot, and I'm wondering why they keep driving around the parking lot. I'm guessing that's security for this shopping center. But why do you need security? Winn-Dixie, because I know this Winn-Dixie used to always have a police officer here, so this might be security for this shopping center. But they keep riding around, I guess, because I'm creator and content, and I'm doing an online video, so that's the reason why. And they're probably security for parking lot. But anyway, we all know Payless. A lot of people started buying their work shoes from Walmart, and they started buying shoes online, and they go to Walmart to buy shoes and stuff like that. So a lot of people stopped going into Payless, and the same thing with Walmart. Same thing with Radio Shack. You buy your electronics from Walmart. You can go and buy your electronics from a lot of the other places. But, and the stores started seeing decline as big chains started taking over. Walmart now, back in the day, Walmart didn't have groceries. You go to Walmart, you can get a bag of chips, you can get some snacks, and you can get pantry items. Now you can get ground beef and steak and fish and inside Walmart. Back then, you didn't have that. You had to go to Winn-Dixie or Publix, or, in certain areas you had Albertsons. If you was in the Latin, Cuban communities, you had Sedano's. You had a lot of these places. So now, with a lot of these high-rise, and you're building Walmarts on every corner, Targets on every corner. A lot of these competing grocery stores are closing because big chains are opening up. Now, this didn't close because of big chains. This closed because Aldi's bought them out, and Aldi said areas that don't have an Aldi's, they're gonna convert the Winn-Dixie into Aldi's. Instead of just building the Aldi's in the neighborhoods, you rather close down the Winn-Dixie and convert them into Aldi's, which to me, I don't understand. But this is what's happening in our communities. I know if you live in an area that have a Winn-Dixie that has closed, please comment at the bottom of this page and let me know if it's going to be converted into an Aldi's, or if they just closing it and it's not being converted into an Aldi's, or it's being changed into something else, or it's already been converted into Aldi's. Because I know there's several locations throughout the state of Florida that's supposed to be converted into Aldi's. And a lot of these places, like I said, this Winn-Dixie used to be before it was Winn-Dixie, it was the 54th Street Flea Market. And this was a big flea market because I think this flea market covered the whole shopping center. And then before it was the 54th Street Flea Market, it was Zaire, which was equivalent to Kmart. I mean Zayres. Not Zaire, but Zayres. If you know what Zayres is, like I said, if you grew up back in the day, you know what it is. And Zayres, they ended up closing because of the same thing. Walmart and Target emerged. Woolworth was the same thing. They started closing their doors because they merged. A lot of businesses started coming up. Remember back in the day, Walmart and Target wasn't the big stores. You had Kmart, you had McCory's, you had Woolworth, you had Zayres, you had Ames, you had several other stores that was in other cities and states, like Jordan Marsh, Mervyn's. You had a lot of these, stores that was back then was equivalent to a lot of people. Then when you had a lot of these other stores like Bloomingdale's, Walmart, Kmart, Lord and Taylor, and a lot of these other stores, they started coming into play. A lot of these small chains started closing. McCory's, they started closing their doors in the 90s. Then Woolworth, I remember Woolworth and McCory's was one of the few places that had a restaurant built inside of the restaurants. I remember going to Woolworth at 163rd Street Mall, and next to Woolworth, there used to be a Woolworth restaurant. And sometimes me and my mom used to eat there. And it was the same thing with Kmart. Kmart used to have the K Cafe. And at one point, the K Cafe started introducing Little Caesars, where you can go in there and get your $5 pizzas. And then when Kmart started going bankruptcy, a lot of the K Cafes got shut down, and they started using that area. If they didn't use it, they just blocked it off, but they started using it as an area for people to go shop for merchandise and a lot of things. So a lot of this stuff is being changed around due to closing of these stores and big corporations buying out these stores and buying out, are rising. You have Walmart that's everywhere now. Everywhere you see, there's a Walmart coming. And the same thing with Target. And now you're building, now the new big thing is Aldi's, because Aldi's now is a rising and upcoming company. So this is it. I want to thank y'all for watching this. If you've ever been in this area, comment at the bottom of this page and let me know. Have you ever been to the Zayres that was here? And if you knew anything that was here beforehand, like all I remember that there used to be a Zayres here, and there used to be there was a Zayres, and there used to be a 54th Street Flea Market, and then it became a Winn-Dixie. I don't remember when the 54th Street Flea Market closed. I know it closed probably in the early 2000s, and moved over here. And there was, a lot of other businesses that was here. If you remember, comment at the bottom of this page. You can also email me, roundtable305@yahoo.com as well. I thank y'all for watching this. Thank you for taking me back in history. This is Liberty City, 54th Street and Northwest 12th Avenue, here in the heart of Liberty City, Miami neighborhood. And if you've ever been in this area, let me know. I want to know more history behind this. Back in the day, if there was other stores that used to be here. What used to be here? This is an empty lot, so I'm sure there was something there before it became an empty lot. What used to be here, in this area? What used to be here before it was a VR before it was a banquet hall and before all of that. Comment at the bottom of this page. I thank y'all for watching. This is the Roundtable Talk. I am your host, C Money. As always, stay safe, stay blessed, stay hydrated, and I will see you in the next episode. Take care.